What if we told you that one failed college presentation led to the creation of a $4.8 billion drone empire? Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly what happened to Frank Wang, the mastermind behind DJI, the company that completely took over the drone industry. This isn't just another college dropout turned billionaire story. This is about obsession, failure, and a relentless pursuit of a dream, even when everything seemed to crash and burn, literally. So how did a kid who couldn't get into MIT or Stanford end up building the most dominant drone company in the world? Let's get into it. Frank Wang wasn't born with a golden ticket. He grew up in Hangzhou, China, where his dad was an engineer and his mom ran a small business. But from a young age, he was obsessed with flying objects. His big inspiration? A red helicopter in a comic book. At 16, he finally got his hands on a remote-controlled helicopter, a gift from his parents for doing well in school. But his excitement didn't last long. He crashed it almost immediately. Instead of sulking, though, he became obsessed. He spent months ordering parts and fixing it himself. That pretty much sums up Frank Wang, a guy who never gives up. Frank eventually made it to East China Normal University to study electronics. But let's just say, it wasn't what he expected. The courses were too theoretical, and all he wanted was hands-on experience building real flight control systems. Frustrated, he made a bold decision. He dropped out. Then he aimed high, Stanford and MIT, but his grades weren't exactly Ivy League material. That could have been the end of the road for him, but instead, he found a new opportunity. He got accepted into the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, where hands-on learning was actually encouraged. And this was where everything changed. At H-Cust, Frank worked on an ambitious project, an autonomous hovering helicopter. A helicopter that could maintain a perfectly stable hover all on its own. Sounds simple, right? Nope. It was insanely complex, and most of his classmates and even his professors thought it was impossible. But Frank was determined. He poured his heart and soul into it. And when it was time for the big demonstration in front of his entire class, it crashed. Spectacularly. For most people, this would have been game over. But for Frank, it was just the beginning. Even though the project failed, one professor saw something in Frank that others didn't. Professor Lee, a robotics expert, recognized the potential in his idea and in him. Instead of letting him fade into obscurity, he became Frank's mentor, connected him to the right people, and even helped him secure funding. With that support, Frank made a decision that would change his life forever. He started his own company. In 2006, at just 26 years old, Wang founded DJI, Dajiang Innovations, meaning Great Frontier Innovations, in a tiny warehouse in Shenzhen. The struggle was real. Starting a company from scratch? Not easy. Wang and two of his classmates moved to Shenzhen, China's version of Silicon Valley. At first, DJI was just selling drone parts to hobbyists. Wang used the last bit of his university scholarship to keep the company going. He was also not the easiest guy to work with. He had high standards and didn't tolerate mistakes, which made the early days pretty intense. But he had a few key friends who believed in him. One family friend invested $90,000, and another buddy even sold his apartment to help fund DJI. That bet paid off, because today, both of them are billionaires. For a while, drones were mostly DIY projects. You had to buy separate parts and build them yourself. DJI changed that in 2013 when they launched the Phantom, the first consumer drone that was ready to fly straight out of the box. No assembly required. No deep tech knowledge needed. Just charge it, turn it on, and take off. It was an instant hit. Suddenly, anyone could capture cinematic aerial footage. DJI wasn't just making drones anymore. They were making dreams take flight. And just like that, DJI went from a niche startup to dominating the global drone market. Today, they own over 70% of the industry. Of course, when you're on top, people try to take you down. Frank's early business partner, Colin Ginn, started taking credit for DJI's innovations, even calling himself the company's CEO. Frank wasn't having any of that. A legal battle followed, Ginn left, and joined a competing company, 3D robotics. But that rivalry didn't last long. When DJI released the Phantom 2, 3D robotics couldn't keep up and eventually left the drone market entirely. Then there was GoPro. Originally, Phantom 1 users had to attach GoPro cameras to their drones. At first, this was fine, but then DJI decided, why not just make our own cameras? This led to a huge split between the two companies. In 2016, GoPro launched their own drone, Karma, hoping to take on DJI. Bad idea. DJI immediately dropped the Mavic series, a foldable drone that completely overshadowed Karma. Within a year, GoPro pulled out of the drone business. Meanwhile, DJI, still running the game. DJI drones weren't just transforming the world of filmmaking and photography. They began revolutionizing entire industries. In agriculture, drones were used to monitor crops and optimize water usage. In construction, they helped with site surveying and safety inspections. In search and rescue missions, DJI drones became life-saving tools, locating survivors in disaster zones and delivering emergency supplies to remote areas. With each new product, from the Phantom to the Mavic and the Inspire series, DJI pushed the boundaries of what drones could do. But of course, success brings new problems. The US government raised concerns over data privacy and national security due to DJI's ties to China, leading to strict regulations and even bans in certain sectors. Meanwhile, as DJI dominated the consumer drone market, Hollywood filmmakers relied on DJI technology for aerial shots in movies like James Bond and The Wolf of Wall Street. However, DJI still struggled to break into the high-end cinema drone market, where custom rigs like XM2 remained the standard. Despite the pressure, Wang believes the drone industry has only scratched the surface of its potential. DJI has already begun expanding beyond drones with innovations like the DJI FPV, the RoboMaster robot series, and the Osmo action cameras. From a kid fascinated by helicopters to running a $4.8 billion drone empire, Frank Wang's journey is proof that failure isn't the end. It's just part of the process. So next time you mess up, remember, it might just be the start of something huge.